I received the text as I was folding the, "Hey darling, just a heads up about the laundry. This year's Christmas will be straightforward. We won't be doing this due to financial constraints. Large presents, only the necessities." I gazed at the message that my fingers gripped the linen more tightly. My parents weren't shocked by my hands. Has always been realistic about. They never went or splurged around Christmas. Excessive. But this year, there's something about the message felt not just that they were off. The finality of it was cutting back, as though a choice had already been made. I mustered a smile even though I wasn't there. Of course, don't worry about the kids. We'll comprehend since there is nothing else that could. My spouse and I weren't exactly on the same page. Swimming in wealth as well, but we consistently made our twins' Christmas more wonderful. We were able to save Lucas throughout the entire year. The year selected and packaged meaningful presents. With caution, although it wasn't ostentatious, it was astonishing. But I swallowed my disappointment and ultimately let it go. Family is about more than presents. I told myself that we were together. I thought so till I saw the pie. The message appeared on my screen after 2 days. 2 days. A leisurely afternoon following Christmas. The children were using their brand new toys while I was there. While my husband was repairing a dripping faucet, I was merely browsing social media. Killing time, I witnessed the most amazing Christmas ever. The caption for a sister was shown above. Carousel of pictures. The initial picture was the living room of my parents, although changed to huge trees glittering. Its branches were weighed under white lighting, surrounded by gleaming red and gold decorations. A mound of presents fell to the ground. The item is wrapped in elegant gold and silver paper. My sister's 2 daughters, who are my nieces, were seated, the middle of everything smashing into. Designers are shown by high-end brand names, footwear, expensive gadgets, and what? There seemed to be a fresh tablet in my pocket. I froze in my heart at the hands of my youngest niece. We hadn't been banging. Nobody had brought up a family when invited. Christmas, getting together for Christmas, has been a great experience for us. Quiet, just me, my hubby, and the twins. Consuming a straightforward dinner at home. Trading small presents. And observing, there are no Christmas movies on the couch. Grandparents without a cousin. Not really big. Celebration. As it seems that we weren't related to this family. I went through the pictures once more this year. I wish I had. Misinterpreted. Perhaps this was from last. Perhaps they had repurposed an old, however. The time stamp was clearly visible. This occurred during Christmas. I checked my messages, but my mother wasn't there. My dad didn't invite me, or suggest anything. I swallowed deeply if they had even considered Lucas and Mia, as they observed my nieces perhaps unwrap hundreds of. The presents would have cost thousands of dollars. Even I felt ill and didn't want to suppose the at worst. Perhaps there was a reason. Perhaps, but I already knew in my heart that fact. They had misled me about more than simply the cash. Not only the presents, they had misled them about our intentions. I wasn't upset with my nieces. Instead, I wasn't even upset with my sister. Believed for a long time that she had always been favored by my parents. Yet my parents, the individuals who brought me up, are the ones who informed me that the purpose of Christmas was not gifts that were most important to family purposefully left us out of something. That should have been intended for everyone. The worst thing was that they allowed my kids to. I felt that Christmas needed to be modest and straightforward, since there was no other. I have not yet chosen an option for my sister's children's Christmas celebration. Had been magnificent, and nevertheless, I stared at the television for an hour. After a while, I went without thinking twice. I blocked my contacts' numbers, not in rage, nor in pettiness, but occasionally, those who are meant to love you the most. The people that hurt you the most are deepest. And my Christmas present this year, I believed that peace was hindering their progress. Numbers ought to have provided a sense of closure. Rather, it was like an open wound. The days after Christmas passed quickly, and went through the motions of cooking. I enjoyed playing with Mia and Lucas while cleaning. I felt hollow and betrayed. Like a stone in my chest, I couldn't swallow David, my husband. "Observed that you were all right," he inquired one night as we heard his voice when we put the children to bed, cautious. Understanding that I I lied because I was just weary, kissing Mia on the forehead before. He turned off the light without pushing, but I could see how he observed me. When he saw me, he furrowed his forehead, gazing off into space. Since you can't clearly say my W, why don't my own parents care about me? You acknowledge that you weren't just excluded. You were rejected the second expected them to make an attempt to get in touch with me. But nothing occurred. At first, there were days of silence. I hoped my mother would at least attempt some justification, a last justification to soften BSO. Despite the blow, nothing appeared, Beth. The name of my sister appeared on my screen. The name of my sister appeared on my screen. On the screen, the phone started to ring. Once more and once more until the text message eventually arrived. I noticed that you blocked your parent. It is important to communicate without expressing any guilt. I apologize, but what's wrong with you? Should speak without X? I pounded my ears to find out what was wrong. Or, being aware of mere accusations, David found me sitting on the edge. I gazed at my pulse's message. I pounded my ears to find out what was wrong. David discovered mine on the edge of. They made no attempt to refute it. My phone, I spoke, barely raising my voice above a whisper. F pause in my it. I spoke, barely raising my voice above a whisper. And they knew what they didn't do, Daisy. But they did, I exhaled, caring that it pained you. I keep telling myself shakily that I might have misinterpreted. David shook his head. Perhaps for a cause. Head stops apologizing for them. They created a. I swallowed my decision, feeling the same. He was stinging me with tears behind my eyelids. Yes, they had selected my sister. Her children decided to deceive me in order to allow my kids think that Christmas had to be modest and uncomplicated while you're elsewhere. They were enjoying a tree filled with of present intentional. The laughter wasn't a coincidence, was intentional. That was the following day, I finally made my choice. Answered my sister's message. They informed me they were unable to, I can afford to buy the kids Christmas presents this year, but they were able to afford an entire A party that they could afford for you was arranged. Lavish presents, pricey decorations, and celebration, but they were unable to even finance it. Ask us to clarify that to me, please. The reaction was nearly Daisy, Mom. It's not a huge deal right away. Dad only wanted to act in a kind manner. For the girls, you're overreacting. I felt sick to my stomach because I was overreacting. Wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't merely, this is what they observed around Christmas. Me less than the child's afterthought who were less important. And for the I stopped for the first time in my life. Acting as though alternatively, I gazed at my sisters. I waited for quite some time before entering my message. Final answer. I hope your girls had a wonderful. I had to make do with a tiny Christmas mine. And straightforward, as that's what Mom and we could afford it, according to Dad. And now I understand my place in this family. So do you. Please don't get in touch with me again. I sent the message. And then I deleted the thread. In the end, I blocked her as well. Not because I wasn't upset because I sought retribution. But since I've had enough of begging for scraps of love. I've had enough of pretending to be important. I've finished waiting for my food. Once they made it, they treated each other like family. Once they made it, they treated each other as if they were family. Obvious. Did I not put down my phone and exhale? Profoundly, and first since Christmas eased my burdens. They continued to reject them. But now I wasn't keeping it for the moment. For the first time, there was no communication from my parents. And there was no silence. No, there were no attempts to make guilt-tripping calls. Silence. My sister's passive-aggressive texts. There were no attempts to make guilt-tripping calls. Smooth things out without really taking note of what you just. The silence should have been a relief. However, in the days that followed, I discovered myself grabbing my phone from one of my habits was to anticipate my mood. Due to a miscommunication, I asked my father to intervene. Come over and tell me, my love, that this is just a situation. Due to a miscommunication, I asked my father to intervene. Come and claim that we didn't intend to harm you. However, that didn't occur because the reality, what exactly did they intend to do? They didn't feel bad about it. Ought to have anticipated the rumors. began informally with a common buddy. Stated that my sister had been complaining about I was standing there when someone else said, "Hey, are things going well for you? Your mother appears to be a member of the family." She was upset that she had cut me, handed my sister's gift after Christmas children everything while allowing mine to think that there was nothing to contribute, and I disregarded the messages, and now she was unhappy. However, David returned home from work one day. His face was tight in the evening when your dad called. Me, I hardened his words, expressing concern. Regarding the way you're acting illogically by severing the family, I laughed a little without humor. Therefore, the first, not the people, and the irrational one, who misled me and left my kids out. I told Christmas David, but he shook his head. You've had enough of him treating you this way, are irrelevant, and you are aware of what he said, crossing my arms in self-defense. You never break off contact with family. I experienced a gradual increase in my burning anger, chest regardless of what I said again. Even if they exhibit partiality, family members lie. Even if they are painful, David, you nodded. Sadly, they've experienced the same thing. Always completed with the expectation that you will take any leftovers they provide while they give priority to your sister. I curl my hands and tense my jaw. This was more than just clenching fists. This Christmas, there was a lifetime of, as the second person in line, I sat in silence. That evening, we were gazing at old pictures in our bedroom. I hadn't opened the picture albums yet. I witnessed the same thing year after year, page upon page. My sister is the center of attention. Family gatherings with love and smiles. Please pay me only a little attention. The side is there, but it is never the main focus. I remembered the birthdays she received. I attended a larger gathering with the new bike. I received the original one from my sister. When she danced, her parents smiled proudly. Recital, but I was hardly recognized when I made honor roll and Christmas arrived. I wanted to give you one more reminder about where I hid. Instead, where I not close the album and let out a breath? Unsteadily, I had been making excuses for years. I told myself that it wasn't. I may have been dreaming purposefully. However, I didn't believe that was the case. Refused to act fake. In the morning, I sat with Mia and Lucas is in the kitchen. "What's wrong, Mommy?" Lucas was questioned at the table. I scowled, inhaled deeply, and simply I wanted to discuss it with you both. Something significant about Mia's eyes widened, asking whether we were in trouble. I grinned. I want to talk, but gently, no, sweetie. Regarding something I also learned a tiny bit about. Late in life, they both straightened their posture. Family listening is about more than just who it is about the people, and you are related to them. Who is there for you? The ones who create you experience love. Not just while convenient for them, but Lucas is always. He tilted his head towards you. I answered, Daddy, exactly. Reaching across Mia reached across the table to squeeze his tiny hand. Is this about Grandma and the bitter lip? Grandpa, the first nodded when he hesitated. Indeed, they gazed at each other. Were youthful, yet they weren't unaware of observed things. Even if they weren't entirely. Understood them, Lucas prodded his. They didn't come for cereal. Mia Christmas scowled, but they didn't. Guess I swallowed the lump in my throat. Yet, throat, I replied cautiously. They love you. I would never disclose this information to my children. Otherwise, while occasionally people don't understand the proper approach to express affection, and when others continue to harm you on purpose, you must determine whether you still wish to have them in your. Lucas's life scowled, just like when someone is cruel to school, and it doesn't stop, I whispered, my heart hurting just a little. Mia remained silent for a while. Finally, she asked, How are we doing? I continued to see them when I peered between my. The entire weight of my burden is on my kids. Choice, no, dear, we're not. Mia started crying, but not because despite missing them, she did so because she realized, and then, much to my amazement, she nodded. All right, Lucas looked. I'm relieved. May we now prepare pancakes? Yes, darling. We can make it. They rushed to get their pancakes. Sitting, laughing over the toppings, I sensed. For the first time, something inside of me changed. I wasn't attempting to for the first time in a long time. Fix something you've never thought to mend. I never pursued approval because it was never granted. Intended for me. I was violating it was the most effective cycle. The best Christmas present I could have given. It had been 2 weeks since my kids were born. I kept my parents away from me for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of silence. There was tranquility before the letter began to arrive. The initial one came in an envelope, with my mom's writing with a twisted stomach. I should have discarded it as soon as I noticed it. Away, but out of curiosity, or perhaps ingrained tendencies caused me to open Daisy. My love, it started, but I stopped. Anger is already starting to rise. In Mycest, that's how she began this, sweetie. Following their actions, following their decision to. I forced my sister to choose me over my children. I don't want to keep reading. Comprehend the motivation behind your actions. We are family, and families have disputes, yet they always return. We never intended to harm you collectively. You're overreacting, I grimaced, as I overreacted to that word once more. My jaw, and I continued to moving. We believed you comprehended that financially. Things have been difficult. They lacked the resources to have a lavish Christmas party. For everyone's benefit, we took the necessary action. Your sister has also been having difficulties. She needed our assistance, so why are you penalized us for that? I let out a small chuckle. They justified their decision-making process. Since they lacked sufficient resources for everyone had enough money to indulge in a luxury. My niece's Christmas. But nothing for I had dedicated years to providing for the children. Not given the benefit of the doubt. I carefully folded the letter, and I disposed of it in the garbage after 3 days. This time, I received a text message from my aunt. I was hesitant earlier with my mom's older sister. Taking it open, "Hello, Daisy. I just spoke with you for a while. Your mother is quite distressed and has been. She doesn't cry throughout this entire situation. Recognize the reasons for your aggressive behavior. I am aware of her love for you." I rolled my eyes, because it was the traditional approach. Guilt trip when they were unable to intimidate me. They attempted to shame me into submission. I apologize for not responding immediately. I chose to gaze at the message instead, letting my mother felt the weight of it sink in. Where had the tears gone when my children were sitting beside a little tree, unwrapping inexpensive presents, thinking their grandparents unable to pay for more? Where was that? Sadness when my sister's children were off their high-end footwear and fresh. Where was her anguish when I looked at the electronics? Discovered via a social media post that my own parents had commemorated without us. They weren't crying during Christmas. They were sobbing for me. Because I lost control of myself for the first time. At one point in my life, I refused to be the daughter who suppressed her emotions simply. To maintain harmony, I inhaled deeply. And at last typed my reply. She isn't frustrated because she's upset because I finally hurt her. Stood up for myself. And if you're unable to comprehend that, then perhaps you ought to cease being her. When I pushed send on Messenger, I believed that the conclusion would be that I was mistaken. An old acquaintance made the last attempt. I had not communicated with my mother. To a Facebook message in years, Daisy. I wanted to get in touch with you. Mom is distraught and uncertain about what to do, she asked. It got so bad between you. I want to inform you that she adores you. The events have devastated me. Despite your anger, could you please have a conversation? She doesn't have enough time for this type of activity. I gazed at the message at my fingertips, filled with resentment. Looming over they have not yet grasped the concept of the keyboard. It wasn't resentment, rather. It was a limit. Choice to cease pursuing those who made I was obviously not a priority, but they declined to recognize what they did. There was. There will be no apologies, no taking, just more accountability. Manipulation. So, this time I answered with only one: if she is distraught, it's merely a statement. Since she was finally given treatment, she gave David discovered me that evening sitting on. I have my phone next to me, face down, on the couch. He assumed I nodded more to more messages. Guilt. Journeys, yes. He sat next to me and observed me. Closely, you're okay. I gave it some thinking. A moment passed, and then, to my surprise, discovered I was due to the fact that, for the first time, In my, I didn't wait for my parents to give me life. I wasn't in need of their care. I wasn't clinging to the hope of approval. I hope they treat me the same way I do. Having consistently handled them, I was finished. And that seemed to David seized my hand and gave it a freedom. Squeeze well. And I knew immediately this was the feeling of true love. For example, 2 months have gone by. My sister left without a word from my parents, or anyone else who is harboring guilt messages for 2 months of dinner peace. I am with my spouse and my laughing children, gathered around the table on weekends, creating memories apart from the influence of familial duty looming over me At first, it seemed odd as though something was missing, but I eventually recognized who I was. The emotion wasn't one of loss, but comfort. But right when I believed I had completely separated from the family that had decided to throw something away from me, occurred, which made me rethink what family meant that it was the end of February. I received a message on my phone. My dad's younger sister, my Aunt Linda. Linda paused before opening it, always stood out from the others. She didn't participate in the drama with the family, wasn't involved in my parents' schemes. Although she had always been nice, although they were never close. Her message was straightforward. Hey, Daisy, I understand that things have been difficult. I only wanted you to spend time with your folks. Be aware that I'm looking at you, and if you and the Dew children ever want to join you for dinner. I stared at the open door. My heart was racing as I saw that the guilt trip didn't attempt to control me. After returning with only an offer invitation rather than an expectation, I gave it some thought. A long time ago, I would greatly appreciate your response. For the first time in a long time, I felt something unexpected optimism for the weekend after. I loaded the kids into the car with David. It wasn't a long drive to Linda's place. The palace was similar to my parents' house, but warm and scented with the aroma of food prepared at home, and the sound of at the door. Lind greeted us with laughter. You made it, she bent, and her face lit up. I'm looking down, grinning at you two, Mia and Lucas. It must be cold inside, so I heated it up. Chocolate was immediately adored by the children. They took their drinks and settled in. I know you, Linda said as she led me into the kitchen. She stated that she didn't want to discuss it. Delicately, but I just wanted to let you know that I disagree with the way they treated you. My eyes pricked with tears, but they don't even believe they did something improper. Linda sighs. Obviously, they don't. How they are. They anticipate that everyone will accommodate them in order to pardon them without accountability. I swallowed hard and nodded. They did it to me. Not just to me. To my children's eyes softened, which is why you're carrying out make the right decisions to protect your children. Those who are solely in love in such a case, that's the best course of action. You might make me feel shaky. Why is it still painful to breathe? Daisy, you're a decent person. Although decent people always strive for better, occasionally, the wisest course of action for you must acknowledge that they won't modify and cease anticipating them. I glanced around her comfortable kitchen. The way she welcomed my family was quite touching, with arms wide open, and I wondered whether I had lost any relatives. Perhaps I had just discovered those who truly merit being referred to as. The evening fulfilled all of my previous expectations. I would like to share my parents' home with Linda's. Mia and her husband enjoyed board games. Lucas chuckled while they came up with their own. Dinner was full of rules. Dialogue that was natural and unforced. I haven't done that in a long time. I didn't think I needed to demonstrate my value. I wasn't considered the backup by Linda. The one who had to accept was the daughter. Whatever semblance of focus remained over, she treated me like family. Enjoy it as we made our way home that evening. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. David, the children are sound asleep in the back seat. He reached over and gave me a tight squeeze. All right, I grinned. Gently. I believe I am because perhaps family wasn't about blood. About who loved you and who showed up. Without restrictions, who created room for without requiring you to plead for it. Spring swiftly arrived, removing the cold. Winter's lingering effects. I'm no longer awake for clarity. Awaited a call from my parents. I didn't hesitate anymore. Looking through my mails in anticipation of another attempt to admit guilt, or I didn't care if they were manipulating me. Does anyone ever understand why I walk? I've finally figured it out. I was no longer upset with myself, awaiting I had already given myself closure. 4 months have passed since Christmas. When my mom eventually managed to please send me another letter, the one who took it from David was, "It is supported by the mailbox between two. Do you want your fingers to feel like they might bite?" I inhaled deeply and stared at it as I read it, at the handwriting of my mother on the envelope. Therefore, I didn't hesitate to David placed it in the garbage and lifted it. With such ease, I grinned and meant it. Yes, I've been telling myself this for years. Family has always been there, no matter what. My parents frequently choose my sister. Regardless of how often I was around, they had to treat me as an afterthought. Wait, that's just the way family is. But I had at last discovered the truth. Family is about more than just DNA. Those who make you feel protected and cherished the scene. As well as they had spent a lifetime with their parents, demonstrating that they weren't those individuals when Easter weekend arrived. For the for the first time, I didn't feel obligated. Instead, we spent the time with my folks. The children ran one day at Linda's residence. I am hunting for Easter in the backyard. Linda and I sat on the patio eating eggs. Sipping coffee while observing their play. Having relatives is good, Linda added. I grinned and acknowledged that she was hesitating. Before moving on, let me clarify. Daisy may not be the same as the one I know. I thought I still missed them in some ways. Did I miss them? Or did I miss something else? The idea that they were my parents was overwhelming. Preferred them to be instead of the ones. In fact, they where I inhaled deeply, allowing the warm breeze removes the weight. Had weighed so much on my chest. No, I genuinely stated that I don't. And for I realized for the first time that I did something I hadn't done before that night. I've been scrolling through I have pictures of my sister, parents, and life. At one point, I had made a concerted effort. I then removed them one by one without any issues. It was not out of spite, but out of rage. Since I no longer required them, I concluded my contemplation after I had finished looking back. If I had made a wise choice, I've finished showing love to those who won't accept it. Return it, set my phone down, and let out a breath. I had let go deeply and closed my eyes. The following morning, when I was packing, Mia unexpectedly inquired about the kids' meals. Will Grandma and Grandpa ever be seen? Once more, I stopped and gazed down at her. Tiny face so innocent looking, not understanding the gravity of it. I answered, I don't know, baby. Lucas genuinely tilted his head. I considered it. Did I not miss them? No, I said quietly. I miss my thoughts. We had it, but I still adore what we currently have. Furthermore, Mia nodded as though she understood, the straightforward, wise way that kids frequently do, and suddenly it was sufficient. Months became a year, and during that time, I constructed something superior to the my family I lost, but I created a loving life. Integrity and deference. I created a new customs among those who attended for me and the majority of. Most significantly, I no longer waited for love. From those who had previously demonstrated, they refused to provide it, because anger was not the most effective form of retaliation. It was bitterness. I had finally found joy.